So to set up Kingdom Builder, you draw 4 different of these board tiles. There are 8 of these in the game, so your game will change each time you play it. You'll also draw 3 different objectives, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. The core gameplay itself is built around using your settlements to achieve the different objectives set before you. Every turn you will play a terrain card from your hand. You'll only have one at a time. At the end of each turn you'll discard a terrain card and then draw a new one. Each terrain card tells you where you'll be placing 3 of your settlements. You must place 3 settlements every turn. Kind of the main rule of this game is that if you can place a settlement next to one of your existing settlements, you must do that. So if this was my first turn and I drew flower fields, I could play anywhere on the board because I don't yet have any settlements, but I have to play in a flower field. So I could place my 3 settlements anywhere I'd like to. Let's say I just put them here for now. If you place a settlement next to a location tile, which are kind of look like these and they have tiles on top of them, you draw that location tile as an extra action to be used every subsequent turn. So I can use this extra action every turn after I place my first 3 based on my terrain card. The extra action tiles are associated with the boards that you have picked for that round. So we have 4 different location tiles. These little tags here are just the description of what that location tile does. So the one that I've drawn here is to place another or an additional settlement from my stock onto the board on an edge piece. So any edge piece I could play on. Again, if I can play next to an adjacent settlement of mine, then I must do that. But let's say it's my next turn. I draw a new terrain card. This time I got grasslands. So now I have to play 3 in the grasslands. I am next to grass over here, so I must play over here. And so I can, surround this or play wherever I'd like to. You'll notice that I play it again next to this location tile, but I don't get to pick it up again. You can only pick up 1 location tile from each location. If I had played over here next to the other same location, then I could pick up a tile here because it's a different location. So I could have 2 of the same extra actions, but in this case I can't because it's the one that I've already drawn from. So now I've done my mandatory 3 from my terrain card. I can discard that and draw a new one for next turn. I wouldn't want anyone to see that though, so I leave it face down. But now I can do any extra actions I have. So the extra action that I have is to play 1 tile on an edge piece. I am not currently touching any edge pieces, so even though I'm close over here, I can't play on these mountains because I'm not allowed to play in mountains. I'm also not allowed to play in water. But I could play anywhere else on the map that's a viable spot. So I could choose to go over here if I wanted to, I could choose to go over there, wherever I'd like to, as long as it's touching the edge of the map, so at least one side of the tile is touching air. So let's just say I choose to go over here. So this is one of the location tiles. The other 3 that we have out here just have different functions in the way that they move your pieces that are already on the board. That's signaled by a straight arrow, or if you get to play an additional piece from your stock, which is signaled by the swoopy arrow or that curved arrow. So that's kind of how the turn-to-turn sort of works. The way that you'll choose to play your pieces is based on how you earn gold, which is how you win the game itself. The game works by scoring at the very end based on 3 different objectives, and those objectives, like I said earlier, were drawn at the beginning of the game. So everyone has the same objectives, but those can change from game to game, just like the game board itself can also change. The 3 objectives we have set up as an example are workers, citizens, and farmers. Workers means that I want to play people surrounding location tiles or these castle tiles. Every time I do that, at the very end of the game, I'll score 1 point for every settlement that is adjacent to a location. So what I've done here is actually a really good thing because now I'll get 4 points at the end of the game for having 4 around this location. The other 2 here are citizens, which means I want to have a large group of connected settlements. So over here I have a group of connected settlements, and I could continue that by playing that direction or playing around here. At the end of the game I would get 1 gold for every 2 in that settlement group. This one that's over here is its own settlement group, so if this one became larger then maybe I would get more points there. But that just kind of changes the way you might want to think about playing. And then the third one we have is farmers, which is to build in all 4 different sectors of the board. This one actually kind of is in contrast with Citizens a little bit, unless you play in the very center of the map. But what this one says is you want to build as many people as you can in all 4 different locations, or all 4 different sectors. At the end of the game, you'll get a number of points based on the lowest number of settlements you have in one given sector. So everyone starts out with 40 settlements. The game ends when one person spends all of their 40 settlements. If I had 10 in each sector, that's the best I could do for farmers, then I would get 30 gold at the end of the game. So this one can be pretty productive, but it just kind of depends on how you're playing and what you're playing for. So the last way that you can get gold is by playing settlements around or touching any of these castles. As long as you have one person or one settlement touching a given castle, you'll get points for that castle at the end of the game. Each castle that you are touching is worth 3 gold at the end of the game. So if this was the end of the game, I'm touching this castle as well as this castle, I would get 6 points. Even though I have 2 settlements touching this one castle, it's still only worth 3 points. It's just whether or not I'm touching that castle. One other important thing about the game end is that there is this tile that indicates who was the first person to play. So this will be in front of whomever went first. If this person plays their last tile before, or their last settlement before anyone else, then everyone else gets an additional turn. But let's say I'm playing with 4 people and we're going clockwise. So I went first and the person to my left. Let's say this person to my right plays their last settlement before anyone else. He ends the game and no one else can play any more settlements. The game is just over and we tally up our scores. So that's how the game functions. If you have any questions about how gameplay works or have any suggestions for us, please leave those in the comments below.